Hello, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in your day. I am so excited that you decided to be here with me. So we are at the end of my series. Today is we're discussing with God, all things are possible. And just to give you guys a quick kind of like overview, if you're watching this video, I encourage you to go back and watch all the ones before this. We have the first one that is discussing saving space for the things that we don't understand. The second one is breaking bad habits. The third one is trusting God through the process. And then the very, very last one is with God, all things are possible. So really quick, I want to go into a story. I know I love telling stories. I can remember growing up and like always doubting myself, right? And so at the beginning of this series, I kind of talked about how God told me that I had to let go of fear, had to let go of negative thoughts, and, all those things. And so I'm kind of going back into when I was a child. I would always, have negative thoughts or doubt myself. And so I remember in high school, I was sitting there taking the tax test, and this is, when we call it the tax test, now they've changed the name, and so I feel old. But I was in the middle of taking a tax test, and I was stuck on a problem, you guys. And as I'm sitting here trying to figure out this problem, I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, I am never going to graduate high school. Like, I can't get through this problem. In addition to that, not only did I tell myself that I wasn't going to graduate high school, I said I would never make it through a college course. So already there, I was telling myself, this isn't happening, right? I was doubting myself because I was stuck, literally stuck, But, eventually I went on to college. Well, let me backtrack. The first college that I applied to, I got denied. And that really hurt. I was devastated because I was excited that I finally was able to talk myself into applying for a college. And then the first college I applied to, I get the denial letter. And so I'm sitting here like, wow, like I already told myself I wasn't gonna be able to do it. And now look, this just showed me that I really wasn't gonna be able to do it, right? Anyway, so I eventually went on to college, like I said. I applied to Prairie View A&M University. One of the best decisions in my life, by the way. I love my HBCU. But I went ahead and went to Prairie View, and I studied social work. And just making that decision and just doing that, like that is a good example of putting yourself in go mode. And so in my last video, I talked about, how you have to put yourself in go mode. And if you don't, you give yourself too much time to make excuses. So all throughout this story, like you're going to notice that I'm making decisions and I'm just like, you know what, just do it, just go. And so when I decided to like I said, apply to college in the first place, it was like, hey, just do it, just go. And then when I reapplied to another college, it was like, just do it, just go. And then, all throughout my undergrad, you guys, so I always envied those students that could come to class and they didn't study and they still make an A, because I was working overtime in school, okay? I was that student where I needed to, you could find me in one or two places. You can find me in the library, or you can find me in the tutor center, okay? And sometimes I would spend hours there, you guys. So I envy those students who could come to class the day before the test, barely put in much effort, and still make an A, because sometimes I was working overtime to barely pass. Now, by the grace of God, I passed. I finished undergrad with all A's and B's. And so I'm so thankful for that. But it was hard. School was so hard for me, but I was able to get through it, right? And so one of the things that got me through it, and I'm not kidding here, prayer. I would pray to God for strength. I would pray to God for direction. or pray to God to just to my mind help me to remember what I just learned, what I just studied for all night. Because you know how sometimes, have you ever been in the middle of taking a test and you're taking the test and then your mind just goes completely blank? Like you're like, wait, what? And you're sitting here like, how could I, like, come on. I just knew this stuff 13 hours ago, and now I'm sitting in the testing room and I can't think of what the answer might be. So that was me sometimes, but I got through college on prayer, y'all. I would pray and I would ask God, and not only that, also believing in myself, trusting God, because the thing is, or the way that I thought was, if God could get me through this situation, and if he can get me through here, and if he can get me through here, why would he finally get me here and I'm stuck? You know, that's not how God works. Why would he finally, maybe I just need to be here for a while, you know, maybe there's some things I need to pick up on. Maybe there's some things that I need to learn before God can get me to the next level. And so that's the way that I went to thinking about certain situations and certain things that God put me through. Even getting that denial letter, even sometimes getting that failing grade. Go back and study. Go back and open up that book. Go back to that place. One thing to remember, with God, all things are possible. And the key word in this statement is with God, all things are possible. And I emphasize on that because I mentioned to you guys that throughout college, I prayed a lot. I also stayed connected to God. I made sure that I stayed connected to God. I was a part of a love ministry. I was making sure I was going to church every Sunday. I was in Bible study. I was praying. I had joined it was called BSM. It was a choir, Baptist Student Movement. And we would travel around and sing at different churches. But I wanted to make sure that I kept God in the center of my life, and so that he can be in every aspect of my life. And so with God, all things are possible. And even years later, I still, try to continue putting God first in my life. So in the last recording that I shared with you guys, I mentioned that you want to be able to keep God in the center of everything that you do, because God, he's literally everywhere we go. Everywhere you go, God is there. Everywhere you are about to go, God is there. Every place God is preparing to take you, he has already been there to prepare it for you. Sometimes, even where I am now, I think about where I used to be, and I think about where I am now, and I just sit and I just thank God, because if you reflect back on your life, you probably went through the valley and trials and tribulations and all these things. But when you look back and you reflect back on it and you see it and you're like, wow, and you're sitting there and you're just thinking about all those things that you've been through, and you can finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. Do you know how good that feeling is? For me, it's just a reminder that God is always there. With him, anything is possible. All things are possible. That thing that you're thinking about right there, the one that's listening, that thing that you're thinking about right now, it's possible with God. With God, it is possible. And so I want to encourage you guys to remember that, and to remember that relationship, like I talked about last week, that relationship is so essential and is so important. Building that relationship with God and and tuning in to hear from him, because he always has a word for each and every one of us. He always has something to say. And so just being available to him and willing and open and ready and awake to hear from him. All right. So as I mentioned before, this is the end of this series, and I am so thankful for those of you that kept up and tuned in every week to listen to this series. It means so much to me. I'm so glad that I was able to share myself with you all. And I hope that you were just all inspired and blessed. Just to give you guys a quick update, this month is going to be, or October is going to be a little busy for me. And so I do not plan on blogging every week. But if you subscribe to my mailing list, you will receive the Saturday doses of inspiration that I send out every Saturday or every other Saturday. So if you're not, if you haven't subscribed to my mailing list, I encourage you to do so you can receive that dosage of inspiration on Saturday mornings. But thank you guys again so much for being a part of this journey with me. And yeah, I'll be back in November to share more. So don't forget that you are loved, you're amazing, you are valuable. And you guys have a good evening or a good night.